What's going on, guys? It's your boy the Juice. In today's video we'll be doing a quick unboxing and review of the Sony 70 to 200 millimeter GM lens. Before we get into this video, I'd like you to take the time to hit that subscribe button and that like button. It helps pay the bills. Okay, so now on to the lens. This lens came out maybe about 2 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. It's for the Sony camera system. For those of you who has been following my channel would know that I'm a Canon shooter, but I've been slowly making the transition to Sony. Man, this is the third lens from Sony that I'm actually gonna own. Now will I fully go to Sony? I'm not sure, because I still love my Canon, but I like some of the features that the Sony camera has. My Sony camera is a A7 III, which just came out last year. Okay, well, without further ado, let's jump into it. Now in the box, obviously it has the image of the camera. Nothing much in terms of writing on the side. Again, nothing really important. So I don't really care about the side I don't really care about that anyway. So now the packaging, the box is pretty good. Sony does a pretty good job in packaging. I think most camera companies do. Of course, you have the read me do's and don'ts, that kind of jargon, which I don't really pay attention to. I like to learn as I go. And more plastic, more garbage. Okay, so Sony, I see, has a tendency of putting their expensive lenses in a little case, just like Canon. Canon with their 70 to 200 camera, they have a similar case. And I guess the case is like if you want to put it in your belt and walk around with, which to me makes absolutely no sense. So if you want to put a strap on it and put it across your shoulders, which I guess would make a little more sense, but at least it gives you those options. Now the zip goes all the way down. Let's get this bad boy out. Again, nothing else is in that case but more plastic and the straps for the case, which I spoke about earlier. More bubble wrap. Oops, that's not good. Okay, let me get everything off of the plastic and put that on the side. Okay, so there you have it. You have the Sony 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8 version, and now it's pretty heavy. Now it's probably not as heavy as the Canon version, but I could do some curls with this actually. No need to go to the gym. But anyways, of course this section here is where you connect to the camera. Supposed to be weather seal, and yes it is. You could see the rubber gaskets inside. This here is a tripod, whatchamacallit, connects to the tripod. It could come off and goes on basically just with pressing that button and sliding off. You have this knob here which kind of allows you to move the collar around the axis, because this collar doesn't come off unlike other models. Now the controls for the lens, of course you have the automatic and manual focusing. You have the range at which you want it to focus, whether it's full or infinity to 3 meters. And of course you have the image stabilization on and off toggle, as well as the different modes, which is 2. Now what I like about Sony lens is basically on the lens you have these buttons. This one here has 3, 1, 2, 3, and these buttons are customizable, which allows you to use it as most people tend to use it as a focus button rather than using a back button focus on your camera. you could, seeing that your hand is going to be there anyway, you might as well utilize it if it fits you. So basically that's the lens in a nutshell. And with the cover or the hood, you have the release button, which is there. And then of course this is something new, which I only found out a few weeks ago as I was doing my research on this lens, is that the hood actually has a little door which opens up and allows you to adjust your polar lens if you do have a polarized lens on the lens basically. So that is pretty cool and very innovative. Now I don't have many lens or many polarizing lens basically, but when I do, I hate having to reach inside the hood to adjust it. Well, and one thing I forgot to mention is inside the hood has a kind of softish velvet kind of material, and I suspect this has helped deflect sunlight from entering directly into the lens when you're shooting outdoors in bright lights and what's not. So again, in a nutshell, that's the lens. Now as I mentioned before, it feels like a tank. It's fairly heavy when you put it next to the Canon version. It's probably just the same size in terms of height. It's probably a little slightly lighter than the Canon version, and I think the Canon version appears to be a bit more bulkier, but I think both of them has the same size same size lens. I think it's a 77 or 82, I can't recall, but yeah, it's pretty heavy. So I'll put that on the side, and now I'm gonna connect it to my camera. Now typically when I'm using my Sony camera, I like to use it with a battery grip because I mean the camera to me feels small as is, and I guess that's one of the selling points, but I prefer to have that extra grip at the bottom. Now one of my major arguments for or against this 70-200 lens is the size, because one of the selling points of these mirrorless cameras was always the form factor. You know, it's supposed to be small and light and what's not, but over the years it's been getting very big and heavy. I mean, look at that frame. Yeah, so basically it's pretty heavy. It's not as heavy as the Canon setup with the similar lens, but I mean it's still pretty heavy. I mean, to be logging this all day long gotta be tiring. But now for me, I'm basically gonna be using this camera and lens. Well, I'll basically be using this lens for portraitures and sports. My son is now 3 years old, and I'm trying to get him into soccer and eventually into basketball and what's not. So I'm gonna be one of those dads running up and down in the sidelines with a big, huge camera taking pictures. No, that was one of the reasons why I got into photography anyway. So, in a nutshell, that is the new lens, which is the Sony 70-200mm F2.8 version. Now I understand there's a F4 version, but now I like having the flexibility of being able to shoot in low light if need be, as opposed to not having that extra stop or two of light. So that was my main reason for selecting this version as opposed to the F4 version. Okay, so that's it for today basically. If you like this video, hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps pay the bills. Hopefully one day I'll actually reach to the point where I'll actually be making money again. Thanks a lot, YouTube. But anyways, until next time, God bless.